imagine that 10 years ago, DNA testing was just starting. So when I started my talk show, Lopez Tonight, in 2009, we had an idea to say who was blacker, Charles Barkley or Snoop, because it's not about color, it's about lineage. And who would you think is blacker between Snoop and Charles Barkley?
What's going on, y'all? Doug Smith back again. Another episode, Birdies Not BS, alongside of Cheyenne Woods. I'm so excited. We got one of my favorite people in entertainment and golf, just in the world. We got George Lopez on this week. I mean, we talked coronavirus, DNA tests, Scotty Cameron putters. I mean, it runs the gamut. And if you listen long enough, you'll actually hear information about Donald Trump's true ethnicity. Cue the lowrider music. Man, between Snoop and Charles Barkley, I'm going with, Charles is from the South, so I'm going with Charles Barkley to be more black than Snoop Dogg.
Yep. By 4%.
Really?
And Snoop said, I want to recount. I was like, you can't recount DNA.
Wow.
But then also we started to do other people to find out what their lineage was. And I did it. The Kardashians did it, and also Donald Trump did it. And when we read the results to Donald Trump, he did not return to get his findings. And there's only a few people in the world who know what his actual DNA is, and I am one of them.
Wow.
And what is it?
So remind me at the end of this episode, and I will tell you.
I thought he was just white.
The person we called him because back there he was just a businessman. So we called him and said, "We have your results," and he said, "Well, read them to me." Well, no, we want them to be revealed. We're not going to tell you. He goes, "Well, I don't want to get surprised. So tell me, or I'm not going to go." And when we told him, he said, "I'm not going in there."
So where did you fall, George?
I am 34% Native American, 9% Asian, and 4% Black.
Wow, that's interesting.
I don't know if I'm more excited about the black part. I knew you was my brother, man.
Wait, what was the percent of black?
4. That's all that matters.
4%. That's strong. That's strong.
Hey,
I used to go
one
out to
drop
the clubs,
rule, man.
I'd go, ladies, I'm 4%, so it won't hurt. Come on, man.
So first and foremost, I want to welcome George Lopez to Birdies Not BS. George, thank you so much for joining us on this special edition. This is the Corona edition of Birdies Not BS.
Listen, it's got my full attention because today was a worldwide eye-opening day in results of testing and Italy and in New York and everything. And you know, to think that that beach in Miami or even last weekend here in Los Angeles where people were at the beach, it's like it's not cool to be at the beach. Like when they tell you to stay home, you have to stay home. So I see Cheyenne nodding. Doug, you know, right?
100%.
I haven't left. I've been with my beautiful wife here since Tuesday of last week. So I'm on day 6. So how about you?
No, I've been home and I've been out to the course a little bit, but even in doing that, it just feels strange. And especially like you said, with now more and more of the results coming out, you just feel like it's not worth it. You know, obviously playing golf is a luxury. And technically we could go and do it, but right now it's not worth it. You just got to be safe.
You know what it feels like when you're playing golf, like we all love golf. And when you're out there, you really there could be so much going on in your life and out there, it disappears. But with this is more, it's not a distraction. It's a worldwide issue that I don't think being on the golf course can eliminate that from your head because the clubhouse isn't open, the restaurants are closed, the starter isn't open. The lakeside over here, where I'm a member today, they closed all week, probably beyond that. But when you go out to go golf to get away, you're not getting away because you can't take your mind off the thing.
Right, you're still reminded by it, and even the little things like people are putting the holes up so you don't reach your hand in the cup and you don't touch the pins and wash off the golf cart. And yes, golf is a solitary sport and it can be individual, but at the same time, with something like this, you're still going to be affected by it.
When they tell you to stay home, they really mean to stay home. And if we have more days like this, I mean, listen, the one thing that clearly social media is excellent for right now is all of the connections that people are making. Zoom, I hadn't heard of till like a couple of days ago. It's a great way, but also the memes and people's sense of humor, DJ Nice and all that stuff that people are doing, being creative at home is the best thing about social media. There's a lot of hate on social media. I think everybody knows that. We've all been victims of that. But what balances that right now and even surpasses, I think, people who are haters is the optimism of people and the creativeness and the ideas that people have for being able to be home and be safe.
See, George talks about DJ Nice. That's how I know that 4% black is true. That's how I know it's true. My man.
I have some red Swarovski crystal shoes. And somebody said, who would buy those shoes? And I said, somebody that's 4% black.
As long as you don't have no now and later Gators, we good.
No.
See, I know you've been around Sid and Steve Harvey, so you know you might have some of that shit might have rubbed off on you, George.
They would tell me, what's the hardest part about performing in front of African American audiences? And Sid jumped in. He goes, waiting for them to show up.
Oh, jeez.
we didn't start one show on time the 4 years that we toured.
Wow.
Hey, real quick though, because I do want to talk about the tour, George, but the tour, the restaurant, books, brewing company, you know, philanthropy, those types of things. How is the George Lopez enterprise kind of being impacted by what's going on in our space right now?
I can't say that the fact that it's closed and it was doing really well. It just opened the one in Torrance and all that. But I think the most important thing is that all of those people that have jobs do not have a place to go and do not have a way to make income. So the brand is strong. My concern is, and my partner's concerns are that, you know, a lot of people here live week to week. A lot of people don't have a lot of disposable income and cannot absorb maybe not working for a month or 2 months, or even sad to think beyond that. So that's the concern. And a lot of people are doing that. The companies are kind of trying to pay the employees, but the brand, we're affected. But the what affects me is all the employees that are affected. You know, San Manuel Casino, Las Vegas, Arizona, Bequiva, all great golf courses out there, all closed. Restaurants closed, brewery closed, businesses closed, people home, daycare. I mean, it's everything. So
is the tour postponed?
Yeah. I don't even think that there's been anything and I'm almost, I'm 58, I'll be 59 next month. There's nothing in my life that's ever even come close to anything remotely like this. And that's crazy because it's not a liberal thing. It's not a conservative thing. This is a global issue. You know, we like to think about ourselves as, hey, how do you do in New York? How do you do in Miami? How do you do? But golf is a worldwide game that's affected, and everybody on earth is affected by. There's not a place in this world that is not dealing with this. And our commander in chief and all of that, we have to get one message because it can't be winging it and misinformation and all the vaccines. God bless, but we need real information.
Definitely. I think all this has taught us that nobody is immune to this. And there definitely is a weak point in our world of being able to be taken down by this. And everyone's life is affected by it. Even as, a professional athlete, you think we have very flexible schedules. You can go out and work in any state, any country. But as a golfer, my tour has been suspended, postponed, canceled until who knows when. So it definitely is a very strange time. And again, like even the golf world, we're not immune to this whatsoever.
And you have to look at when we do return that people won't have the floating income that they had before this, nor will I think that even some sports, MMA, anything that's contact, will have to look at how they will proceed, knowing that a virus, blood, saliva, sweat, and the transmission of all of that, right, Cheyenne? I think
100%.
in all the contact sports, they're going to have to take a hard look at it.
I agree. And even though this might be solved by June or July, where we're able to open things back up and get to traveling, I'm thinking about at events when you have thousands and thousands of fans. Are the players going to be interacting as much? Are they going to have different regulations for letting people come in, sanitizer everywhere? I think long term it'll change how we go about our business forever.
Well, Trevor Immelman, Masters champ in 2008, is a very good friend of mine. And when they canceled golf, he said, golf has been canceled for the year. And I said, why don't you go back to the commissioner and tell him that the players promised to hit it straighter so that they have very few contact with the gallery.
That solves everything, right?
So, George, given our recent climate, in the country, being a comedian, how do you stay light? And how do you keep everybody light and upbeat during this time? I mean, we're all in. Have you made any concerted efforts to do different things on social media or reach out to folks? And what are you doing to keep a smile on your face?
Well, I think if you look, I've been doing it for 40 years. June will be 41 years.
Jeez.
So I'm not going to change the way I approach my comedy now. In early January, I went viral. I got a lot of attention. The Secret Service came to visit me at home because there was a story that in Iran, they had offered a bounty. And my joke was that I said, we'll do it for half. Well, they considered that a threat. And the right side was trying to get me thrown in jail. And then when the Secret Service came to my house, I said, listen, you don't understand our culture. That was an estimate. It wasn't a threat. That was how much I could do it for. That was my price. Find somebody to do it cheaper, that's on you. But that's me out the door. Material, all in. But so you have to go, like what they say, when you're golfing, you're playing bad, you got to go with what got you there. You can't change. Like I may have lost half of my audience because I chose one side against the other. That's just what I'm going to have to live with. I have to, at the end of the day, be myself, and all of that stuff that gets me in trouble is me being myself.
Well, let's see how often you do get in trouble on the golf course. How did you even come to this sport? Of everything to play and everybody you're around, I mean, there's not a lot of land out in LA, so there's not so many places to play golf. How did you even come to the game?
Well, I'm going to tell you, if I had not taken up golf, I'm not sure where I would be. I don't think I would be in the position that I am right now, because I didn't have a male figure. I didn't have a father. My grandfather worked all the time. I didn't have someone who would say to me, listen, you have to be responsible. You have to be honest. You have to have integrity. You have to be polite. You have to be courteous. And when I started to play golf in Christmas Day of 1981, my friend Ernie called me up and he said, let's go play golf. And I'm like, it's Christmas, man. It's closed. I call the place, they're open. So we went to El Carrizo in Silmar and we rented clubs, and they sold us beer even though we were 19, 20. And that day we didn't know what we were doing. We were laughing, we were swinging and missing. And I haven't put a club down since that day. And some of the best times I've ever had with the best people that I know have been people that I met playing golf. So golf is it's more than a game. It became like a surrogate. Those 14 clubs, although probably families are bigger than 14, became almost like my extended family. That's real talk, man.
Knowing firsthand, I know you carry way more clubs than 14 in that bag, George. You carry 13 clubs and 6 putters.
Well, I give them away to you, so I got to figure out which ones work.
That's never a good sign when you see a player show up with more than a putter or a driver or anything. That's never a good sign.
Who's counting? That's what I say. Who's get in there?
George, I have to say, this is Maribel. I have to say that the day you gave Doug that putter was probably the happiest day of his life. It made me a little jealous because he was happier than on our wedding day.
Whoa. Don't be putting my business in the street.
I was fortunate that Scotty Cameron sent me that putter, that black Tour Rat putter, and then it stayed in my garage. And when I saw how much golf meant to him and how absorbed he was and how much he loved it, I knew that I was going to see him at Cedric's. I told him there, I said, hey, I got this putter that I'm going to give you, because if not, it would be on the other side of this wall right here, which is my garage. And I don't think that as I got older, we became hoarders, because as an only child, I didn't get a lot. So anything I had, I held on to. But as I became successful in my business, I became more generous. I think it's very few people that become kinder with success than they were before they were successful.
Agreed.
I'm one of those.
All I know is that shot I had to hit after you handed me that putter. That's the hardest golf shot I've probably had to hit in my life. He actually bet me in a sense. He told me, hey, Doug, if you make this putt, you can have this putter. And I missed the putt, needless to say.
But
and he
not
was
by
like,
much. But not by much.
High side lip out. I'll never forget missing that putt. Never.
Not by much. That dude said, say goodbye to your putter. And I was like, oh, no, that's going in.
You have your own celebrity golf classic, correct? Tell us more about that and how you got into doing that.
Well, I had this is also one of the reasons I haven't left home. So I had a kidney transplant in 2005, and I was sick my whole life. And I had the symptoms early on, but as a culture that didn't go to the doctor, and they went undiagnosed. Like they just thought that, I wasn't concentrating. My grandma's like, I used to wet the bed because my kidneys weren't working properly. So I would wet the bed. And she never said like, we got to figure out what's going on here. She would just say, don't drink water after 7. Don't drink water after 5. Don't drink water after 3. Don't drink water before noon. All of a sudden it's like, don't drink water all year. And I still did it. So if I had gone to the doctor when I was 15 or when I was 18 and I was in great shape because I played baseball all year round, and still my blood pressure was a little bit high, even when we took the physical for high school baseball, my blood pressure was a little high and everybody else passed. And the doctor said, if I were you, I'd go and get that checked because I think you're too young to have hypertension. And that was a effect of my kidneys not working properly. So if I would have gone then, I probably would have saved, for sure, had saved both my kidneys. But since I didn't, in 2005, I had a transplant. And then I remember telling the doctor that I don't want to be the poster boy for my transplant or kidneys. I just want to get better. I want to go back to work. I just want to go back and live my life. And literally a day and a half after the surgery, I got up in the morning and I had felt better than I had felt in my life. And at that point right there, Cheyenne, I decided that I would help people. And the best way for me to help people was to, create a foundation, but also to create the golf tournament, which this year it's postponed, but I think it was our 14th year maybe. And we raised millions of dollars, and that became from that morning where I woke up and I felt better, that I could not let people be sick when I knew how great I felt and I could help them be well.
Wow, that's awesome. That's what I think is so special about golf, is that you can have causes and events that truly impact so much more than yourself, your immediate community, and just have that platform to spread so many good things throughout whoever.
It's the best way. There people do bowling tournaments and all that stuff, but I think golf is it's the best way. It's the best way. And I have two things that I'm proud of. From 3, I'm proud of raising the money. But I played golf with Cheech. I've been playing golf with Cheech for over 20 years. And Chong didn't play golf. So I said, well, if I got Cheech playing golf, I got to get Chong so I can get Cheech and Chong to play in my tournament. So I talked to Chong, and he already was playing a little bit with his son, Paris. So in the last few years, I had Cheech and Chong play together. And Bruce Jenner played in my tournament like the first 2 years. And last year, Caitlyn Jenner played. So I have that yin and yang and Cheech and Chong.
So
from my claim to fame.
From a cliche perspective, how is golf with Cheech and Chong?
They smoke too much weed. I can't play with them. I never had a high tolerance, but they smoke. When I first met Cheech is like, you got to come to my house, on a Sunday, and I'll cook. We'll cook. So I go over to his house, just me and him, and we eat. We go outside, and he lives in Malibu in the Cove. So we got on top of his thing, had a viewing point. So you could look at the sun go down, and he takes out a little matchbook, the kind you slide, and there's half a joint in there. And he's like, hey, you want to smoke? And I said, yeah, I don't really smoke, but with you, come on. So I smoke a little bit. We say goodbye. I get in my car, and I drive up to the gate, and the gate doesn't open. So he's already inside. I'm looking at the gate, and I'm like, is it opening? Is it not opening? I think it's opening. So I'm looking at it. Literally 20 minutes go by. He knocks on my window, and I roll the window down. He's like, hey, man, you got to go closer to that gate. You're too far. I was still probably 50 feet from the gate, and I thought that I was right up against it.
Oh, jeez.
True story. And it took me 5 days to get home.
Talking about golf and golf kind of, being instrumental part of your life, what lessons has the game actually taught you, George?
Well, I loved baseball before I played golf. And I remember in high school, I got into a big argument with the guys that I still talk to were behind me. And the coach was trying to build a batting cage. So he was having us sell tickets to a car wash to raise the money for the nets and the batting cage. I didn't sell hardly any. So when I went back and turned my ticket book in, he said, you owe me $150. And I'm like, what's that for? He goes, for the tickets that you didn't sell. I go, I didn't sell any tickets. He goes, yeah, but you're responsible for the tickets. I said, I didn't know I had to sell all of them. You know, you're going to take advantage of, you know, using the facilities, but you're not willing to put $150 in. So we had a heated argument, and he called me a quitter, and he called me that I would never become successful in life because when it got tough, I packed it in. That's what he said. Get tough, you pack it in. So cut to 4 years later, and I'm starting to play golf, and I don't know what I'm doing, and it gets frustrating. And every time it got frustrated, I quit. So after like a few months or even a year, I can't remember how long. When I left, I would tell these guys, "Hey, I'm only going to play 9 because I just remembered I had to do something." But I didn't. I was lying. There's one defect. So when I got in the car, I could hear my coach say to me, "When things get tough, you pack it in." And I went and back to the school. He hadn't probably seen me in 5 years, and I went up to him and I apologized for being a disturbance while I was in high school. And that he said, "Is that what you came to tell me?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what I came to tell you." I said, "I don't think I could have lived if I had not come and apologized to you for the way that I treated you and how disrespectful I was to you." And he stuck out his hand and he goes, "You know what, man, there might be hope for you yet." And I'm serious. I don't think I could have lived if I hadn't have gone. I didn't even see that guy a lot. He just passed away a couple of years ago, but I could not have continued my life without going and apologizing to him. And that was a first, and that was through golf. I'd never told anybody I was sorry. I would just remove him from my life.
Wow.
So in the same vein, I'm sure golf has put you in touch with people that have been instrumental. I mean, you talk about Cheech and, you know, those types of things, but, you know, who are some of the folks that have been impactful to you that have come through this relationship with the game?
Trevino and I are like family. So we're like, he considers me family. I would consider him family. And watching him play and seeing him on the cover of Sports Illustrated, I never imagined that he and I would have this relationship. So that, and then Eddie Van Halen was a member of my club, but never showed up. And then when I met him, I said, "Hey, you're a member of Lakeside." And he goes, "I haven't played in forever." And then he and I have been playing golf for the last 10 years.
Who are some of the best celebrity golfers that you have played with?
Well, I think Kenny G, I would probably say maybe 10 years ago, Kenny G was an incredible golfer. And Kenny G had a room that was set up underneath his house that had the nets and the simulator back then. We're talking about 2005 on. Listen, I get the work I need on the range. I don't need to be doing it at home. Like, I don't need to start.
Just leave it at the golf course.
How much do you get to practice, George?
Not very much.
All right, I got to ask George, if you're going to go play golf and you can play with anybody, who's your foursome that you usually play with, and who is your, like, this is my dream foursome, dead or alive?
I play with Anthony Anderson. I play with Cheeto. I play with Cedric, with DL. And my dream foursome would be Elvis Presley, Freddie Prinze Sr., and Richard Pryor.
Oh, my God.
You know, my grandmother wasn't around, and thank God, because she was always on me for comedy and for playing Richard Pryor's Long Beach special 1,000 times. I mean, it was on a loop in my house. So if she were alive, she would say, "Hey, what happened to your idols?" I'm like, "Who?" Freddie Prinze committed suicide. Richard Pryor lit himself on fire. And the third one, Bill Cosby. So I could sure pick them. So I'm glad she's not around, because I would have never heard the end of. And then Charles Manson was a fan of mine, I found out. So I would have never heard the end of any of that.
Well, Cheyenne Woods is a fan, so that's a step in the right direction.
That's all I need, man. That is a step in the right direction.
So, all right, we've talked about who you do play with, who you would play with. Now I want to ask you, George, who needs a lesson from Shy?
Anthony Anderson needs he collapses at the top and he sways, but when he hits it good, he really hits it good. But I mean, Anthony, myself.
We can set that up. We can definitely set that up.
Long irons, yeah. So that it would all be great. We'd love to have you out. We'd love for you. Hey, when the tournament gets a new date, I'd love for you to come out.
Oh, that would be awesome. We definitely need to do that for sure.
That'd be great.
That's easy, George. I've only seen you hit 2 shots in life, and they were both almost hole in one. So I feel like I'm your good luck charm on the golf course. Give me a bag.
Let me see how this comes out.
Right. Then we'll know.
Damn.
But absolutely. I mean, I met you guys through golf, so.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I have a question for you in regards to that. It kind of ties into that because we talk a lot about diversity in golf here on Birdies Not BS, and I think that there's a parallel between the TV world and the golf world sometimes. I know that back when you had your show on TV and it was canceled, I remember you said something about how, well, thanks a lot for basically continuing to make TV, white, essentially, like not diverse at all.
I said TV got whiter today, yeah.
Right, and we feel that golf has that problem, obviously, which is why we want to grow the game. So do you think that there's a clear parallel between the TV world, what you've seen in the TV world, and what you see in the golf world?
Okay, I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. I first played in the Bob Hope in 2004, and I first played in the AT&T in 2004. I played in the AT&T for 9 years. I played in the Bob Hope for 4, and I ended up hosting the Bob Hope. And I appreciate all of the invitations that I got, but I got uninvited from the AT&T because allegedly my political views did not match the political views of the people who ran the AT&T. So,
wow.
But which is fine. And everybody wanted to know what I thought of it. And, I didn't want to whine and I didn't want to complain. And I was grateful that I got invited. But the reason I got uninvited was I just kind of wore out my welcome. They didn't appreciate what I was trying to do. Same for the Bob Hope. I spent a lot of money making sure that the caddies and the golfers had a great time. I brought music into the Bob Hope. I had a party for caddies and golfers where there wasn't a buffet. You could order from the menu. Maybe $30,000 every year from 2000 for the 3 years, all out of my own pocket. Any guy will tell you. And the board uninvited me because it was their 50th year, and they decided that Arnold Palmer would be a better host for the 50th year than me, which is great. He could have been an honorary host. It could have still did it. I wasn't trying to make people forget Bob Hope, nor was I trying to be the next Bob Hope. I was just being myself. And Mike Collins, who everybody knows, if you ask him, he will validate everything that I've said, because I think it hurt Mikey and I more because we're trying to grow the game and to get that type of treatment from 2 tournaments that I highly respected and golfers that I respect and people that I respect that we're trying to grow the game. That's what I got. We're trying to help out. So,
do you think these institutions get in the way sometimes, George, in the effort to grow the game amongst Black and brown communities?
No, I just think it's a hard game. It's a hard game, but I'm not a pro. The fans like me. I didn't wear my welcome out with the fans for what I was there for. Almost like a rodeo clown. You let the guy ride the bull. He's a professional. And then when we become like rodeo clowns, and in the meantime, we do our thing, and then the pro hits again, and we do our thing. I just think that they minimized me because were going in another direction. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the luster or the attraction of pro-ams on TV.
That's true. Yeah.
What do you think is missing then to actually grow the game amongst Black and brown people, or just minorities, and including women
the
too?
Have-nots. That's what I call it.
You can't make it easier. So it's not affirmative action. You're not going to get an invitation. Maybe somebody gets an exemption, but Cheyenne knows how tough it is. You just have to keep playing and keep grinding. I think Christina Kim getting her privileges is an incredible story, because she had lost it all and lost her game and spirit and motivation. And to see her now, I've known her for over 10 years. It's inspiring to see somebody not give up. It's always inspiring to see whoever not give up, but it's good to see her back in there.
Yeah, and golf is such a roller coaster too, whether it's the day, the week, the year, your whole career. You never know what can happen no matter who you are. Golf will treat you the same as the next person. So it definitely is an interesting sport to kind of see, like you said, people persevering and hitting rock bottom and coming back in the same career, which is somewhat unique in sports.
When I was playing out there in the Champions thing, there's a guy named Keith Clearwater, who was a very good pro. He was saying that guys come out here because they block a shot and hit it in the water. But in reality, you could hit that shot 100 times perfect on the range, but not until you get under the gun and you have to hit that shot again. Are you really going to be able to know if you can do it or not? Anybody can go on the range and simulate hitting that shot and hit it perfect 50 times in a row. But that's not on the court. Like they say, the longest distance is from the driving range to the first tee, but also from here to here is the long,
100%. Yes.
Yeah. And there's nothing that, there's people that have an incredible constitution. They have no nerves. They can block it out, but they might not be the best ball strikers. To find somebody that can play their mistakes. Nota Begay, good friend of mine. And I remember Clint, his brother, told me one time that he tries to hit it perfect every time, and you're not. And he goes, I try to tell him, man, you got to play the mistakes. But Nota tried to be perfect. Look, we went to college with. Look at those guys. And I don't think he'll ever admit that he tried to hit it perfect every time. But Clint said, at that time we played at the AT&T, I just wish he would just play his misses instead of trying to hit perfect every time.
Yeah, Nota did have one of the most legendary golfers ever on his team. So
funny, we just had dinner in LA, and at my house in Pebble Beach, everybody would stay there. Mike would stay there, Cheeto, Anthony, me, Trevor stayed in the guest house, and we were watching past U.S. Opens, and we were looking at all the guys kind of erode as the tournament went on, and we would see Faxton, and we saw other guys, Colin Montgomery, and then Nota was there, and he missed the putt and dropped from the leaderboard. He's like, oh, man, I forgot I was in that.
It's crazy to think that you could be in the tournament and then forget that you actually played in it. But George, I know we're getting short on time with you, and before we wrap it up, I want to throw it over to Maribel for a question from an Instagram listener.
Yes, so we have a question from one of our loyal listeners, Instagram handle jbuglins. She wants to know, what are the best golf eras in your opinion?
1997 to 2001, the Tiger era.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody didn't miss the cut, who stood up to, Colin Montgomery at the Masters, when they played together that Saturday and he got his ass kicked, and Monty was just like under the tree doing the interviews, like, this guy's like, he put it on me. So it brought a lot of people to the golf that wouldn't necessarily have been at golf. A lot of people have stayed. But as tremendous as the Ben Hogan era was, and Palmer and Nicholas and Trevino, Player, Watson, Weisskopf, all those guys playing, they don't all add up to, I hate saying this, to one Tiger. Tiger's era was incredible.
Can't argue with that. I have one more question. Where do you see the game of golf going, like as far as modernizing or changing, evolving?
Well, somebody who was very high in golf told me that it was always a boutique sport, like tennis. So in trying to make it a big game, I think may have hurt golf a little bit, but golf is wonderful a perfect diamond doesn't have to be immense. It's perfect. So I'm not saying the game is small, but the game will settle itself, and it won't pass basketball, and it won't pass football, and it probably won't pass baseball. But the people who watch it love it, and that's what you have to honor. And trying to make it for everybody, it's not a game for everybody, but it's a game for those who will accept it. It's a life-changing game. You can't play baseball till you're 50. You can play golf, and there's people who lose their lives playing. They're in their 80s. And I played in Florida with an 82-year-old man who whooped my ass. And he hit it right down the middle, 110 yards, and I was everywhere. And at the end, he couldn't even see what the bills were. He's like, DeMore, you lost more. But it's a game. Listen, you can play it forever. Somebody said, how long are you going to do stand-up? I said, listen, if Muhammad Ali could have boxed till he was 58, he would have. If anybody could play on the PGA Tour until they were 58, they would. So it's a game for life.
Oh, the DNA results. You promised us.
Oh, that's right.
Fair. Back to it. DNA results.
I'm glad we didn't forget about this.
Oh, Maribel wrote it down, and actually she texted to herself, and she had an alert. So she's She made sure she didn't forget that. George,
You ready?
We're
game
ready.
time.
32% African American.
Wow.
Come on. Come on.
No way.
Hand to God.
Really?
You ever see his ass? Huge.
Was not
You say-
expecting that.
And
did not
Donald Trump got
want
that
it
Phil
like that.
Jackson.
I'm gonna say like that. I'm gonna say he did
Wow.
not want to return to have those read to him, and there was only 4 people up until about 15 seconds ago who knew.
Now the whole world will know.
Thank you so much for listening or for being a part of this episode of
My
Birdies Not
publicist,
BS.
whenever my publicist calls, I know it's something back that she never calls. I'll let you know. I'll send you a text as soon as she gives me a shout.
George, how do people get a hold of you, and what's up next for George Lopez?
Everything is at George Lopez, Instagram, Twitter, everything. And I have a Netflix special that will be probably premiering. I move it up because of the quarantine, but it'll be out before the quarantine is over.
Perfect.
Perfect. We'll
What's
look
it
out
called?
for that.
Ooh, what is it called?
We'll do it for half.
Oh, that's great.
And there you have it. No BS with George Lopez and Cheyenne Woods, a special guest. Also, Maribel Quesada. George, thank you so much for everything you've done for me. I've named the putter James Wandsworth, just so you know. That's his name. He's in the bag,
right.
and I'm wanding it every time I get on every green.
Yeah,
So
baby.
that's how we do it.
You can play.
Cheyenne and I will definitely be in touch to play golf once we get through this. And, we got to get through this together. All folks are
really
affected
do.
equally.
That's
Most
very
definitely.
important. That's very important. And stay home, like we said in the beginning. Stay home.
Yes. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks again, George Lopez. Next week, we're going to have another great episode. Make sure you tune in, subscribe, Birdies Not BS. Don't forget to give us a review. You can send us your questions at birdiesnotbs.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Birdies Not BS. Send us all your questions, messages, love, hate, whatever. We'll read it. And we'll be back next week.